Okay, first of all, you've got to have, like I said over here as a hint, you've got to have AB. Josh, for a second, I get you a little bit of participation, you're thinking elsewhere. How do I get AB? What's your brain doing now?
No, you just difference from the
How far from there to there?
Yeah.
Reality, it's -1 plus 2. So that is 1. I could write it that way. Now, by the way, this time I decided to write them horizontally instead of vertically. Because I always write them vertically, but in the test you had it written horizontally, and I thought, I'd prefer it vertically. So -1 plus 2, which is just up 1. So that one's up 3. So do you see that now? And you see that's just down 1. Well, they could have gone -3 plus 2. Now I'm going to put them underneath each other. Josh, maybe is a good habit to get into. So that one I went up 3, or -1 plus 4 is 3. I've gone up 1, and I've gone across 0. Now I'm going to say this once, so I'm going to write the wrong word, my way that I do if I'm not fully confident in the numbers. I might put an I there, J there, K there, and I put minus. What do I do? What have I forgotten last? A, B, Y, A, C. That will be a
minus,
and that will be a plus. So where do we get those two numbers from? Ignore the, you say it for me? How do you put into words?
E times the, yeah.
That by that.
Yeah.
So, and we times that by that.
Yeah.
So I ignore the first two because they're the i's. So I'm going to ignore the i's and I go 3 times 0 is 0. And I'm going to go -1. So it's 0. So I didn't think about the -1, I just put the two numbers in. Next one, so I ignore the j's. So I go 0 minus. So I don't want to talk about, oh my goodness. I don't want to talk about that minus because a lot of people muck that up. I just go -3. Last one, the k's. I've ignored the k's, so that's going to be
1, 9,
I end up with
1, -3,
so it's going to be, yep,
-8.
-8, okay. And what's that? ID,
That's your n, isn't it?
the what?
The n in the equation.
Yes, and what is that actual thing? When you multiply, cross multiply, not dot product, you end up with perpendicular to the plane. So the cross product, getting 2 vectors, that one and that one, could have used any vectors. Most people will probably go A, B and AC. That's why I said go A, B and AC. So the cross product is the perpendicular to that plane. So if I had these points in space, and I had 3 of them say there, I've got the perpendicular going into that plane. Okay with that now? I have the perpendicular. So if I've got the perpendicular and I want R dot NC, what's that N stand for? Perpendicular. So now I've got R, I'm going to write it the other way. And I've got, what's that? I could have written that course as 1 -3 -8. Or I could have written it as 1 -3 -8. So I'm going to write that as 1 -3 -8, which is the usual way of writing it. What's my trouble with C?
It's a thingy, not a singular number, because the product is a singular number.
It's actually this.
Oh, no.
So we need the cross product to get the perpendicular, and now we need the dot product to get the equation.
Well, it's confused. It's like R dot N equals C. I was like, isn't that wrong?
Well, it says to write it in that form, but the formula to get the C is, what do I call it? Probably everyone calls it R now, I don't know. When it said to write that, it's like hello, I'm going to use that. Did that throw your brain off that it said that?
Mm.
Yeah. So maybe it's getting your brain to connect the fact that when they're meaning that, they're meaning that, because that by that will become just a number. A dot product becomes a number, which we don't call it a number, we call it a, starts with S, C. So that's a scalar. So that bit there is a scalar. But that's why it's just a C, this is just a scalar. So do I now use like the ABs and the ACs to do that? They are the vectors. We now want the position vector A. So I could use that A. If I wanted to, I don't have to use that A. I could use B, I could use C.
I want you to use C.
A?
I want you to use C.
No.
What?
So that C there, perfect question. That C there is not that C there. Now I love it. Now I see what's going on in your brain. This must have been happening in my brain over vectors in other ways over the years. That C is calculated by getting any point and multiplying it, dot product, getting the dot product with the perpendicular.
So I can still use C?
Can use that point C if you wanted to for that one there. It's almost like you go n equals n equals C. So that A actually stands for what? Any point. Ooh, I don't think they put it A because of any. So there's a point, there's a point, there's a point. You could then figure out another point. I could get a point somewhere else in there. So what's that A? Josh? Most people, to make it easier on the markers, will go back to the first one. Because if you make a mistake, you want the marker to be behind you. And then the perpendicular is the cross product. So that was?
1, -3,
Yeah, and then you've worked that out, and all that is R dot 1 minus 3 minus 8.
You've got the negative A?
Hey, yes, did too. 1, I ain't bother to write it. 1 minus 6. Remember, we're not doing that complicated one.
Yeah.
We're just going that pair, that pair, that pair. So that's actually the I by the I, the J by the J, and the K by the K. So if we did the I by the J, they become 0. So we're only looking at those 3 pairs. And the last one's minus 24. And now we've got what they asked us for. 1 minus 3 minus 8, and that is
Negative.
minus 29. Now, if you wanted to, and they said, also write it in Cartesian form, you know what to do then, Josh? One last one, but you still make your brain up, and I'll come back to that maybe later. You replace the R by X, Y, Z. Now, Josh, I breeze through this like this is really obvious to people, and maybe it isn't. So we're now doing the dot product again, not the cross product. So we've got the X times the 1 is X, the minus 3 times the Y, and the minus 8 times the Z equals minus 29. Now we've got it in. Now what we do to make you up, tell you the same question and say calculate the equation of the plane in the form, or say in Cartesian form. And maybe you don't, as yet, you're not confident enough to associate the two systems. So that system will give us Cartesian. Enough said?
Mm-hmm.